Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Always ready to explore some new ideas.
Well, today we're tackling a book that's been making waves in the personal finance world, Morgan Housel's The Psychology of Money.
Yeah, this one really digs into the mental game of money, not just telling you what to do with your finances, but more like why we do the things we do.
And that's the angle we're going to be exploring today, right?
Absolutely. Like it's not about picking the hottest stocks or finding some get-rich-quick scheme. It's more about building a healthy relationship with money.
So let's jump right into it. One of the first things that really struck me was this idea that behavior matters more than smarts when it comes to money.
Oh, definitely. Housel really drives that point home. He's basically saying you don't need to be a financial genius to be successful.
It's more about making consistent, good choices over time.
Exactly. Like you could know everything about investing, but if you don't have the discipline to stick to a budget or save regularly, all that knowledge won't really help you, right?
It's like uh, knowing you should eat healthy, but still ordering pizza every night.
Right. The knowing part's only half the battle. The real challenge is putting that knowledge into action consistently.
And that's where the psychology comes in. I mean, we all have those moments of weakness, those impulse purchases, or those times when we just don't want to think about budgeting.
Totally. And Housel acknowledges that. He even talks about how luck and risk play a role in our financial lives, too.
Yeah, that part kind of blew my mind.
Mm.
Like, even if you do everything right, you diversify your investments, you do your research, there are still things outside of your control.
Absolutely. And I think that's a really important point because it helps us reframe our past financial mistakes.
It takes some of the pressure off, you know? Like, maybe it wasn't entirely your fault that you lost money on that investment. Maybe it was just bad timing or some crazy event that no one could have predicted.
Yeah, and that's why understanding the role of luck and risk can help us make more informed decisions going forward. We can start to focus on what we can control.
Okay, so we've talked about the importance of good behavior and acknowledging the role of luck. But how does all this connect to actually building wealth?
Well, that's where Housel's distinction between getting rich and staying rich comes in.
Yeah, he really emphasizes that, doesn't he?
He does, and it's such a crucial concept. See, it's one thing to earn a lot of money, but it's another thing entirely to hold on to it and make it grow.
And that's where the power of saving comes in.
Exactly. It's not always about earning more. It's about being smart with what you already have.
I loved that story he told about Ronald Reed, the janitor who became a multimillionaire.
Oh, yeah. The one who quietly invested his savings for decades.
Yeah, like he wasn't making a huge salary or anything, but he was consistent with his saving and investing.
It's a perfect example of how slow and steady can really win the race.
And that ties in with the whole idea of compound interest, right?
The eighth wonder of the world, as some call it.
But can you remind me how that works again?
Sure, it's basically this. Your money earns money, and then that money earns more money. It's like a snowball effect.
Right, right. And I remember him mentioning something called the Rule of 72. What was that about?
The rule of 72 is a neat little trick to estimate how long it takes for your investment to double.
Oh, right. Good.
So you just take 72 and divide it by the annual rate of return. Say you're getting a 7% return on your investment.
Oh.
Well, 72 divided by 7 is roughly 10, right? That means it would take about 10 years for your money to double.
Oh, okay. Got it. It makes it easier to wrap your head around, huh?
Exactly. It helps you visualize the long-term power of compounding.
Speaking of long-term, though, let's be honest, saving can be tough,
Mm.
especially when you get that raise or bonus and suddenly have a little extra cash.
Yes. The temptation to spend.
It's real. What about this whole concept of lifestyle inflation? It's almost like a trap.
It definitely can be. Housel warns against it for good reason.
But isn't it natural to want to, enjoy the fruits of your labor a little bit? I mean, you work hard. You deserve to treat yourself.
Of course. And there's nothing wrong with that. But lifestyle inflation happens when your spending increases right alongside your income.
Oh, I see.
So you get that raise, you start spending more, and suddenly you're not really any better off financially than you were before.
So it's not about depriving yourself. It's about finding that balance.
Exactly. Indulge a little, but don't let your spending spiral out of control.
And this is where Housel's idea of defining enough comes into play, right?
Exactly. Figuring out what enough looks like for you personally is a huge step towards financial well-being.
Because more money doesn't always equal more happiness. We see that all the time, don't we? Like those celebrities who have millions and still end up in debt.
Right. They haven't figured out their enough point, They keep chasing more and more, thinking it'll fill some void, but it never really
It's
does.
almost like they're trying to keep up with some imaginary standard.
It's the difference between showing off wealth and actually being financially secure. Housel is a big advocate for building wealth quietly, making smart choices behind the scenes instead of trying to impress everyone.
Yeah. And I think that ties back to his point that money is deeply personal. What works for one person might not work for another.
Absolutely. We all have these money scripts, these unconscious beliefs about money that we've picked up from our families, our experiences, even just from society in general.
That's interesting. Like, if you grew up in a household where money was always tight, you might develop this scarcity mindset.
Right. Always worried about not having enough, even if you're actually doing okay financially.
Yeah, I can see how that would affect your financial decisions.
It can really impact your spending habits, your willingness to invest, your overall comfort level with money.
So how do we break free from those negative money scripts?
The first step is awareness. Recognize those patterns, those beliefs that might be holding you back. Then you can start to challenge them. Ask yourself if they're really true or if they're just stories you've been telling yourself.
Kind of like rewiring your brain, huh?
Exactly. It takes time and effort, but it's definitely possible. And once you start to shift those negative beliefs, you open yourself up to a whole new world of financial possibilities.
So before we wrap up, I want to ask our listeners a question. After hearing all this, what's one small change you can make in your financial habits this week?
Yeah, think about one small step you can take to build a healthier relationship with money. Maybe it's starting a budget, automating a small savings transfer, or even just taking some time to reflect on what enough means to you.
Because like we've been saying, it's not about being a financial genius. It's about understanding your own psychology, making those consistent good choices, and ultimately aligning your money with what truly matters to you.
It's about taking control of your financial future and creating a life that feels abundant and fulfilling. And remember, it all starts with one small step.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll catch you next time.